Hey everyone, welcome back. And today, this month, we are doing our next educational video on sharks. So, as most people I'm sure, especially when you're younger, you found sharks to be very, very interesting. Well, I've finally now just started to look into them even more in depth than I already had. So, we're going to start looking at sharks now. So, what is a shark first off? What is what we'd consider the definition for one? So, a shark is a group of elasmobranch cartilaginous fish characterized by ribless endoskeleton, dermal denticles, which the dermal denticles are just tough scales that cover the skin. Then they have 5 to 7 gill slits on each side of their body. And then their pectoral fins, or their fins here, right here, are not fused to the head. And then also you can look here at this, but we'll look more into the head, trunk, tail of the shark later. So, the scientific classification here. So, of course, we have the domain Eukaryota, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Chondrichthyes, subclass Elasmobranchi, division Coelentrii. Then we have orders and superorders here, and I'm not going to go over all of these because, first of all, I'm not even going to try to pronounce them, and second of all, there's just quite a few here. So, the first shark, or shark-like organisms, first appeared in the Devonian period around 419 to 359 million years ago, and the oldest shark teeth were found around 410 million years ago. Though some fossilized scales are as old as the late Ordovician, which was 458 to 444 million years ago, and the earliest confirmed modern sharks are from the early Jurassic around 200 million years ago. So the earliest sharks mean the ones that we would still today be able to tell are sharks. Oh, also I have a few different trivia kind of things. So in all technicality, sharks are older than trees from what we know. Because trees are only around 400 million years old, whereas the oldest shark teeth are 410 million years ago. So technically, sharks are older than trees. And then, even crazier, I guess, if you don't even think about it, is sharks are thought to be older than the rings of Saturn, because the rings of Saturn are thought to have formed only around 10 to 100 million years ago. So, there are some cool trivia. And then I have a picture here of what we consider the first shark-like organism here. So, sharks can come in many, many, many different sizes. The smallest being the dwarf lantern shark, which is around 17 centimeters or 6.7 inches in length, to the largest fish and largest shark, the whale shark, which is 12 meters or 40 feet in length. And then I have a little picture here showing the whale shark, the largest. Next, the basking shark at 33 feet. We have the great white at 23 feet. We have a megamouth shark at 15 feet. Nurse shark at 13. The mako shark at 8 feet. The black tip reef shark at 6.5. And then we have the bond thread shark at 3.4 feet. And then we have the very, very, very small dwarf lantern shark at 6 inches. So, let's go ahead and go over a little bit about the whale shark. So, first off, I do have a video that goes over just whale sharks, but this is like a very brief description of them. So, if you want to go later and learn more about whale sharks, I have a video on it. So, whale sharks are again the largest fish and largest shark. They are a slow moving, filter feeding carpet shark and the largest known extant fish species. Extant meaning existing or still alive fish. And they inhabit all tropical and warm temperate seas. The largest confirmed individual had a length of 18.8 meters or 61.7 feet and weighed 20 to 25 tons. And the lifespan are estimated to be between 80 to 130 years. And they feed almost exclusively on plankton and small fishes. And then I have a picture here behind me of where they can be found. Like we said, they inhabit all tropical and warm temperate seas. And then we have a picture of one over there. So, the anatomy of sharks. So, again, a shark's skeleton is mainly made of cartilage. I'm pretty sure most people knew that, so they don't really have bones. The endoskeletons are made of unmineralized haline cartilage, which is more flexible and less dense than bone. And then most sharks have 8 fins, a pair of pectoral fins, a pair of pelvic fins, 2 dorsal fins, an anal fin, and a caudal fin. So the caudal fin, like as you can see on the picture here, is the big fin in the back. Then we have the second dorsal on top, and then we have the anal fin on bottom. We have the pelvic fin on kind of like their, where we would consider like the hip kind of area on us as humans. Then we have the dorsal fin on their back, as well as a dorsal fin spine. The pectoral fins, you might think of kind of like arms for sharks. And yeah, they have one of those on both sides. And then if you want to look even closer at the fins, we have a picture here of the dorsal fin that is like has a little bit more in-depth anatomy to it. So their tails are actually very, very different depending on species. And the tails can be divided into 5 categories. So the first category being fast swimming sharks of the open water. These can be like crescent shaped tails with upper and lower lobes almost equal sizes, and the high aspect ratio of the tail serves to enhance swimming power and efficiency. And also, as we're going over this, you can look at the top there and you can see a picture of a few different types of tails. Then we have the typical shark tails, which the tails with the upper lobe being longer than the lower lobe. The upper lobe is turned upward at a moderate angle relative to the body. This balances cruising efficiency and turning ability. Then we have bottom dwelling sharks, which their tails with longer upper lobes and virtually no lower lobe. The upper lobe is held at a very low angle, which sacrifices speed for maneuverability. So these ones are going to be very, very slow but can move like turn fast. Then we have dogfish sharks, which their tails have a longer upper than a lower lobe, and the backbone runs through the upper lobe at a lower angle than the lobe itself. This reduces the amount of downward thrust produced, and the tail cannot sustain high speeds, but combines the capability for bursts of speed with maneuverability. So they can't really produce very like long, like their stamina isn't great, but they can usually do like short bursts of speed and also have pretty good maneuverability. Then we have the angel sharks, which have a unique tail among sharks where their caudal fin are reverse, with the lower lobe being larger than the upper lobe. And again, you can look at the picture there where we have 6 different types of like fins or whatnot. So yeah, all of these are pretty different. Whenever I initially like looked at sharks or whatever, I didn't really look at their fins. And now looking at the pictures and seeing how much different they are, like I'm like, how could you not see that? So their internal organs. So the internal organs of sharks, of course, one being the liver. I'm just going to go over ones that are a little bit different in like compared to other animals. So the liver being like the largest. The liver is a large and oily organ that comprises 25% of the total body weight of a shark, and it has 2 main purposes in a shark, which are to store energy and to store oil. It helps with buoyancy since the liver stores oils. This decreases the density of the shark's body. And it also helps filtrate the blood and waste while also acting as a storage region for vitamins. And if you end up watching my orca video, or if you know about how orcas will sometimes kill sharks just to eat their liver, since there's so many vitamins stored in the liver, I can understand why the orca would try to get that piece. And again, I have a video on orcas, just on orcas, if you want to look at them. Another thing that is different about sharks is that their hearts are 2 chambers. Then they're also their spleen. So their spleen is actually where they make their red blood cells, and also where the immune system functions to fight off pathogens. So this is different than most animals because most animals have bone instead of cartilage. And inside the bone of most animals, they have bone marrow, which will produce your red blood cells. So a little bit different. Then we have the respiratory system of sharks. So of course, sharks use gills to breathe underwater by extracting oxygen from the water. And we have a picture there that you can see the gills of the shark. So the water will enter through the mouth and pass over the pharynx and exits through the gill slits. Most shark species have 5 gill slits on each side. However, some species, again, we said had 6 or 7. And then they have spiracle. Well, some sharks have spiracle. Spiracles are cartilaginous structures that are located on top of the shark's head to draw oxygenated water through and over the gills. So you can see on the picture here, you can see the internal spiracle, and water will come through that on some shark species and go straight over the gills, so they don't have to have their mouth open at all times moving. And again, like I said, not all shark species have these. So, since we just got done talking about the respiratory system, now is probably a good time to start talking about their sleeping and breathing situation. Because as people probably have heard that sharks need to keep swimming to breathe, that's not entirely true, but we'll go over that. So all sharks, of course, need to keep water flowing over their gills in order to breathe, but they have a few different ways that they can do this. The first being ram ventilation, which a shark will swim with their mouth open to force water over their gills. These are the ones that people would think of that have to keep swimming to breathe. Then we have buccal pumping, where a shark will use their cheek muscles to actively draw water into their mouth and over their gills. Then, of course, when we were talking about the respiratory system, we are talking about the spiracles also that some sharks have. So these are, again, openings behind their eyes that allow them to draw water, and even with their mouth being closed. Then some shark species will do a combination of both ram ventilation and buccal pumping, depending on their activity levels. Then I just want to also say this: sleep swimming is a thing where a shark will continue to swim while sleeping. So I'm guessing the ram ventilations one will sleep while they're swimming with their mouth open to breathe. Also, I did see a video that showed of some shark species that will like set themselves down in a current or something like that, so that water will continuously be moving over them so they can breathe, so then they can sleep while they're in the current. Which I don't know how often that's used, but it is something that I've seen. Then we have the digestive system of sharks. So one organ that a lot of different organisms do not have is a spiral valve, which is a coiled organ. It increases the surface area so that nutrients can be absorbed, kind of like we do with our intestines and whatnot. It's kind of like an extension of an intestines. And this spiral valve empties into the rectum and anus, then into the cloaca. And if you look on this picture down below, number 18 right here, that is the spiral valve or the coiled organ. So then the stomach of a shark, other than being used to hold food, also helps with buoyancy, where whenever a shark takes in air into their stomach, it provides a shark with the ability to float. And also, the shark has a shorter intestines than most animals, which causes food to take greater amounts of time to fully digest. Then we also have the pancreas here that helps with digestion by producing the enzymes needed to break down large chunks of food, and this keeps the metabolism at a faster pace to accommodate for the large amounts of food taken into a shark. So then, the sense of smell, okay? We've all heard that sharks have amazing senses of smell, especially with the blood. So, sharks have keen olfactory senses, and these are located in the short ducts between the anterior and posterior nasal openings. If you look right above us there, the 2 holes on each side, that's where the olfactory lobes are located. And the size of the olfactory lobes varies across different shark species, with the size depending on how much a given species relies on smell or vision to find their prey. So, in an environment with low visibility, where they can't see very well, then shark species will generally have larger olfactory bulbs. And then in a reef situation where the visibility is very, very high, the shark will have smaller olfactory lobes. And since we're talking about it, some species of shark are able to detect a little as 1 part per a million of blood in seawater. So basically, 1 drop of blood to a million drops of seawater, basically. So very, very, very good senses of smell. So reproduction, okay? So of course sharks reproduce sexually, of course, most of them do at least. The male will usually deliver the sperm to the female using claspers that are inserted into the female's oviduct. And I have a picture here behind me. And there you can see the claspers on a shark. And then, as I said, most sharks will reproduce sexually, but there have been a few rare cases of asexual reproduction in the wild where a shark will basically not need a male at all to reproduce. So, some sharks will lay eggs while others will give live birth. So, I have a picture here in the center where you can see some live pups that are coming out of a shark here. And then also you can see the eggs. Then on the very, very far side here, we have a few different egg cases that some sharks will have. So there's some that are spiral, there's some that are flat, there's some that have like large pointy bits or whatnot. And then they're usually kind of clear if you hold them up to the light. And you can usually kind of see the shark and also the yolk. So pretty cool. I think it'd be pretty interesting to go to like the ocean and actually find an egg case like this. I've seen people do it in videos. Thermal regulation. So thermal regulation is basically just how a shark keeps the same temperature, like it's the normal temperature, while in the water. Most sharks are poikilothermic, which poikilothermic means their internal body temperature matches that of their ambient environment. So if their like environment is like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, then their body would be around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Short-finned mako shark and then also the great white shark are homeothermic, which is they maintain a higher body temperature than the surrounding water. And that is because of a strip of aerobic red muscle located near the center of the body, which generates heat. And the picture up here on top above me, you can see the RM there is the red muscle inside the center of their body, which generates the heat. Then larger species like whale sharks are able to conserve their body heat through sheer size when they dive to colder depths. So just because a whale shark is so much bigger, it's easier for them to conserve body heat because of their volume and mass. Then there's the scalloped hammerhead, which closes its mouth and gills when it dives to depths around 800 meters and holding its breath until it reaches warmer waters again. So because it's not taking in the deep, cold ocean water, it can keep a higher temperature until it reaches the warm waters again. So, since we just talked about the scalloped hammerhead, why don't we talk about it a little bit more? So, primarily, they live in warm, temperate, and tropical coastal waters all around the globe, between latitudes of 46 degrees north and 36 degrees south. And they can dive down to depths about 500 meters or 1,600 feet. It is the most common type of all hammerhead sharks, and it's easily distinguished from other hammerhead sharks by the central indentations on the anterior margins of the head. Also, there are 2 indentations on either side of the central indentation. So, if you look at the picture down here below me here, you can see the indentations on its head and on the picture here. So that's the reason why it's called scalloped hammerhead. It has a very large first dorsal fin that is highly hooked and a smaller secondary dorsal fin. They are typically uniformly gray, grayish-brown, bronze, or olive with a white underside. And the maximum length of these is around 4.6 meters or 14 feet. And the maximum weight being around 152.4 kilograms or 336 pounds. They have small, narrow, triangular teeth that have smooth edges but may have somewhat serrated edges. So up here on the top, you can see a picture of what their teeth would look like. Again, being triangular with smooth edges. And then on the bottom here, of course, we have the picture of the shark and then also of its like range. So it's around, let me see, the east coast of the Americas, then the west coast of Africa, and then also the east coast and south of Eurasia, Australia, Indonesia, all that area there. So even though sharks are like predators, they sometimes use camouflage. So the camouflage they use is usually counter shading, which is a dark color on the upper side, while they have a lighter color on the underside of their body to help prevent visual detection from predators, if they do have any. So basically, the counter shading is from the top, you might see grayish blue or darker colors, and then from the bottom, you'll see white. So if you're looking at a shark from below and looking up, the white underside might kind of blend in with the color of like the sun rays on the top of the ocean surface. Whereas if you're looking from above on the shark down, the grayish darker color will kind of blend in with the darker colors of the deeper ocean. But there are a few different types of sharks, or I guess one in particular, that has bioluminescence, which they produce and emit light. And the light producing organs are called photophores, which produce ventral countershading. So the kind of line right there on its body will kind of glow a little bit. So the shark we are talking about with the countershading, the bioluminescence, is the dwarf lantern shark. So it's a species of dog shark and is the smallest shark in the world. And its maximum known length is around 20 centimeters or 8 inches long. It's found only on the upper continental shelf off of Colombia and Venezuela at a depth of 283 to 439 meters or 928 to 1440 feet. It's identified by its small size at maturity and long flattened head and a pattern of black ventral markings and a mid-dorsal line. It is also capable of producing light with a distinctive array of photophores and ventral black markings, like we said. And then there's another picture of it there. And then also in the top here, we have like a map showing it right there where it's at, the continental slopes off Colombia and Venezuela. So there are many, many, many different types of sharks, so they have different feeding strategies. So the one feeding strategy that is most apparent in most sharks is being apex predators, or the top of the food chain, and actively hunt prey. These would be the bull sharks, tiger sharks, great white sharks, mako sharks, thresher sharks, and hammerhead sharks. Then there are also filter feeders, one of these like being the whale shark and the other being a basking shark, which they filter out plankton or other small fish out of the water. Then there are a few that are scavengers, which they feed on dead or decaying animals that sink to the bottom of the ocean. And one of these being Greenland sharks. So, going first for the apex predator of apex predator, the great white shark. So, it's a species of large mackerel shark, which can be found in the coastal surface waters of all major oceans. One of the densest known populations is found around the Dire Island of South Africa. It's notable for its size, with the largest preserved female specimen measuring about 5.83 meters or 19.1 feet in length and around 2,000 kilograms or 4,400 pounds in weight. The lifespan of a great white shark is estimated to be as long as 70 years or more. It has been recorded at depths as great as 1,200 meters or 3,900 feet. The great white shark are generalist carnivores preying upon fish such as tuna, rays, and other sharks, while also eating things like dolphins, porpoises, and whales. Then they also feed on seals, fur seals, and sea lions, squids, sea turtles, sea otters, and sea birds. So they basically eat about anything that they can fit in their mouth. So I have a picture up above here of course, a great white shark, and then I also have of their range, where basically we said they live basically anywhere in the surface coastal waters of the major oceans. So then we're going to be moving on to one of our filter feeding organisms. Since we already talked a little bit about the whale shark, we'll give a little bit of look at the basking shark. So it is the second largest living shark and fish after the whale shark, and is one of the three plankton eating shark species along with the whale shark and the megamouth shark. They can reach around 7.9 meters or 26 feet in length and weigh around 4.65 tons. They are a coastal open sea shark found worldwide in boreal or subarctic climate to the warm temperate waters. So it lives around the continental shelf and occasionally enters brackish waters. So it can't really be found in like the middle tropical areas, as you can see on the map here, but it can be found in like the upper, like we said, boreal subarctic climates. And then we have a picture of its range, and then also a picture of a basking shark right behind me here. So then we've gone over our apex predators. We've gone over our filter feeding ones. Let's go over our scavenger shark. So here we have the Greenland shark, which really the Greenland shark is one of the like most interesting to me of shark species. Other than like the great white and the whale sharks, of course, the Greenland shark is one of the next like coolest to me. And you might not know of these very much because they're not really found that often. But they're also known as the Gurry shark or the gray shark, and it's a large shark of in the family of sleeper sharks. They have the longest lifespan of any known vertebrate, which estimated to be between 250 to 500 years. So they can live a long, long, long time. Among the largest extant fish shark species, extant again being living shark species, it's reached a maximum confirmed length of 6.4 meters or 21 feet long and weighs around 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds. They reach sexual maturity around 150 years of age, and their pups are born alive after an estimated gestation period of 8 to 18 years. So they live to 250 to 500 years, but they can't even reach sexual maturity. They don't become like an actual fully grown adult until 150 years of age. Then, whenever they want to have babies or whatnot, they have to gestate for 8 to 18 years. That is insane. Then, also, the meat of the Greenland shark is toxic to mammals due to its high levels of trimethylamine N oxide. And then they are both scavengers and active predators. But since I put them in the scavenger thing, I wanted to also mention that they are attracted to the smell of rotting meat in the water. That's why they're kind of known as scavengers. Then I have a picture here up top of the Greenland shark and then also of its range. And its range, of course, is around Greenland and also the northern part of Eurasia and also around Canada's east coast, and like up near also the northeastern tip, I guess, of the U.S. So one of the like most known things about sharks are their teeth. So sharks are a polyphyodont, which is an animal whose teeth are continuously replaced as they live. Sharks continuously shed their teeth, and some can shed approximately 35,000 teeth in their lifetime. And teeth are replaced about every 2 weeks. And water temperature affects the turnover rate of teeth. So if they're in warmer waters, their teeth will come in very quick, whereas if you're in colder waters, it might take a little bit more time. And because there are so many teeth and they're made of like enamel and whatnot, shark teeth are one of the most well-known fossils. That's why you can find like megalodon teeth fossils and stuff like that very often. There are 4 basic types of shark teeth, and I have pictures here around me of different teeth, which I will move myself away from that one so you can see it a little bit closer. But I have pictures up top to my side and then a little bit below me to my side. So there are 4 basic types of shark teeth. So there are dense flattened ones, which would be kind of like the nurse shark's teeth right there, which are used to crush prey like bivalves and crustaceans. Bivalves being like mussels, clams, stuff like that, and crustaceans being like crabs and whatnot. And these are in nurse sharks and angel sharks. Then we have needle-like teeth, which feed on small to medium-sized fish, and are effective small prey because they can easily grip their slippery narrow bodies, and that being like bull shark. You can see a bull shark's tooth right up here above me. Then we have pointed lower and triangular upper teeth, which are used to cut larger prey into smaller portions in order to easily swallow the pieces. These being like great white sharks, and we have a great white tooth right up top. Then we have non-functional teeth, which are teeth of plankton feeders, like the basking shark and the whale shark. And I have a picture of a whale shark's teeth right there. And they're basically plates, okay? They're plates of many, many, many small teeth. So, since we just talked about the nurse shark a little bit with their like very dense flat teeth, we'll go over and talk about them a little bit more. So, nurse sharks are common in shallow tropical and subtropical waters, and these sharks are sluggish and docile bottom dwellers. I've seen pictures and videos of people that like are scuba divers that clean up aquariums or whatnot, and even out in the wild. And sometimes nurse sharks, especially if they know you, will swim up to you and want like belly rubs and scratches, kind of like a little dog. So they're pretty cute. They are the most abundant species of shark found in shallow coastal waters, and they are nocturnal animals, spending the day in large inactive groups of up to 40 individuals. They can be hidden under submerged ledges or in crevices within the reef, and their diet consists primarily of crustaceans, mollusks, and other fish, particularly stingrays. The gestation period is 6 months, with a typical litter of 30 to 40 pups, and they typically live to about 25 to 30 years in the wild. Then, of course, I have a picture of the shark up there, and then also of its like living range. So, their habitat of sharks, okay? So, their habitat generally, most sharks do not live in freshwater, although there are a few known exceptions. But first, saltwater, of course. Some live in open oceans, some live around coral reefs, some live in deep oceans, some live along like the shallow shores, whatnot, but basically just in saltwater. But then there are a few freshwater species that live in rivers. One of these being the Ganges shark, which lives only in freshwater, and then there is the bull shark and the river sharks, which can be found in both seawater and then also in freshwater. So let's go over the Ganges shark. So they are often misidentified as bull sharks, and they are a very, very, very critically endangered species of requiem shark found in the Ganges River of India and Bangladesh. There are fewer than 250 Ganges sharks believed to exist, and their maximum size is around 204 centimeters or 80 inches long. So these sharks, they only live in basically one river in the world. And as you can see, I have a picture here above me of the India and the Ganges River and whatnot. And since they are most only in that river, they are very, very, very easy to kill off, I guess. If you only live in one place and that place ends up becoming inhospitable or you can't live there anymore, then you're just going to die because they are freshwater species that can't really go anywhere else. And there's not really much known about them because there have been very, very, very few caught, and even fewer that have actually been seen. And also, they look so much like bull sharks that they sometimes are misidentified. So here's a few pictures that I had that I couldn't really find a picture of a real Ganges shark. Most of them ended up being bull sharks or they weren't very good pictures. So I just ended up choosing a picture that someone had drew of them and called it a day. So this is probably the rarest shark species, I would say. Then the other shark species that can also be in fresh water are bull sharks. So a bull shark is a species of requiem shark commonly found worldwide in warm, shallow waters along the coasts and in rivers. The name bull shark comes from the shark's stocky shape, broad, flat snout, and then aggressive and unpredictable behavior. So, bull sharks are euryhaline and can thrive in both salt and fresh water, like we said before. They have been known to travel up the Mississippi River up to Alton, Illinois, around 1,100 kilometers or 700 miles from the ocean. And as the bull shark ages, its tolerance to very low or high salinity increases. So, The younger sharks are not born with a high tolerance to high salinity, so they are born in fresh water, and they stay there until they're able to travel out into this ocean. And adult female bull sharks average between 2.4 meters or 8 feet long, and they typically weigh around 130 kilograms or 290 pounds. And then the males of these species are slightly smaller usually. And then they have a bite force of up to 5,914 newtons or 1,330 pounds. So they're one of the strongest bite forces of all sharks. And then I have a picture of a bull shark up above me there. So then I also have a picture here of a map of their ranges. So they're found around North America and South America, Africa, then Australia, Indonesia, New Zealand, stuff like that. They're not really found around Europe and whatnot. So, so one thing you might know about is most aggressive shark species. I'm sure people have probably heard stories about like, oh, this shark is the most dangerous and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and go over that and also kind of why sharks might attack or whatnot. So, of course, we're going to go over the most aggressive shark species, but we're going to go over the most fatal and unprovoked attacks. So not just attacks, but the most fatal and also unprovoked. So the first being the great white shark, which has 351 known attacks, 59 of these being fatal. Then we have the tiger shark, second, being 142 known attacks, 39 of these being fatal. And then third being the bull shark, which is 119 known attacks with 26 fatalities. So, of course, great white shark being a bigger shark, any bite that it does is going to be more dangerous, more fatal, and whatnot. I'm surprised that the bull shark is only third because it's kind of known for being an aggressive shark species. So I'm surprised it wasn't second or possibly even first. But I also wanted to add in there the oceanic white-tip shark because even though it's not listed like as most aggressive shark species or anything like that, or most dangerous, it like most of the attacks that it has not been recorded because quite a few attacks, especially during the World Wars, many ships and aircraft disasters happened in the open ocean, and the oceanic white-tip shark was often the first species on site when such a disaster happened. So anytime a ship would go down or something like that, there's many, many, many different stories about the oceanic white-tip sharks being there waiting. And whenever the ship went down, they would just start attacking people. And since most of these are not recorded, it's not really added into this most fatal or unprovoked attacks. But yeah, that's just something you might want to keep in mind. They're not all nice. And I have a picture of a oceanic white-tip shark here, and you can tell because of the white tips on its fins. Very, very well named. So, shark attacks. So, shark attacks, every year there's around 80 unprovoked attacks are reported worldwide, and humans are not part of the shark's normal diet. Shark attacks will usually occur if a shark feels curious or confused. So a shark usually performs a test bite to figure out what it's biting. So when they get curious, sometimes, like we said, they'll kind of bite something just like a little bit and try to tell if, hey, does this taste good? Is it food? Should I eat it? And usually a test bite that's all someone will get, which will still hurt, of course, but it's not like biting off a limb or anything. So an unprovoked attack occurs when a human touches, hooks, nets, or otherwise aggravates the animal. And incidents that occur outside of the shark's natural habitat, such as aquariums, research holding pens, are considered provoked. And so if you're just researching a shark or at an aquarium, you could be provoking it. And all incidents involving captured sharks are also considered provoked. So, unprovoked attacks are initiated by the shark. So they usually occur in the shark's natural habitat, on a live human, and without human provocation. So these are usually hit and run attacks. Well, actually, there's 3 different types. So there are hit and run attacks, usually non-fatal, where the shark bites, does a test bite, and then leaves. Then there are sneak attacks, where the victim will not usually see the shark and will sustain multiple deep bites. So this is where the shark is meaning to bite you, basically. And then there's the bump and bite attack, where the shark will circle and bump the victim before biting it. And I just want to add in here that usually whenever a shark does bite or whatever, it's usually just because the shark is, again, confused or curious about something. So it might see like a swimmer as a seal or something like that, because sharks don't want to eat humans. That's the main thing. They don't want to eat humans. They're looking for something that they do usually eat. So, since we've gone over all of the living sharks and whatnot, we should probably go over the big bad one himself, the megalodon. The one extinct species of giant mackerel shark that lived approximately 23 to 3.6 million years ago. So their maximum body length is estimated to be between 14.2 to 24.3 meters. So that's a gigantic 47 to 80 feet long. And their large jaws could exert a bite force of up to 108,500 to 182,200 newtons, which is 24,390 to 40,960 pounds. So that is a gigantic bite force and a gigantic jaw. As you can see in the picture above here, you can see like an estimated jaw of the shark, and then also what their teeth would look like, which that one looks to be about 13. That's probably centimeters, I'm guessing. It's next to a ruler, but it doesn't say if it's in inches or centimeters. Well, I don't know. But it's thought that the expansion of glaciers at the poles led to the sea level dropping, which may have restricted the many suitable shallow warm water nursery sites for megalodons. So as the ice grew, the ocean water like lowered, making it so all the shallow oceans and shallow warm water areas where a megalodon would usually have its babies weren't an option anymore. So they may also not have been able to survive the cooler ocean temperatures because as the glaciers were building, the ocean temperature was dropping. So being that much cooler, they might not have been able to do that. And additionally, a marine megafauna extinction happened during the Pliocene, which was discovered to have eliminated 36% of all large marine species, including 55% of marine mammals. So this would have caused a major decrease in food supply. So with the expansion of glaciers causing their nurseries to be destroyed, then also the ocean water becoming colder for them, and then also most of their food sources being killed or reduced, there were a lot of things going against the megalodon. So that's probably the reason why megalodons do not exist today. And I don't really care what you say. I don't think there's any way that a megalodon could exist now. Like even talking about like the Meg movies, okay? Which don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the Meg movies, but there's not there. I don't think there's really a chance. So that is about all I could compile about sharks in a given amount of time, a month. Which, don't get me wrong, that was a very, very, very long video. And I mean, it's already getting close to an hour long, which it's not quite an hour. But that is a lot of information on sharks, and I've always been slightly interested in sharks, so just being able to do this was very interesting. Like, the bull sharks, I have heard stories of like the Mississippi about there being bull sharks in the Mississippi and about how far they can go up. So it's always been a little bit of a scary thing that like, oh, even though I'm in the middle of the United States or even though I'm like so far away from the ocean, technically if you're still next to a river, a bull shark could get you. Like technically they could. And they have one of the biggest bite forces of like sharks. So pretty interesting for them. And it's cool that they can go on fresh and salt water. So, the Ganges shark is something that I did not even know existed, and hopefully still exists many years to come. Hopefully they are protected and they can live out their days. Being like one of the only freshwater shark species, other than like some river sharks. Nurse sharks are little doggies. They're cute. I like them. Shark teeth. I want to like. I've never actually found like a fossil shark tooth or anything like that. I've never actually found a shark tooth. And even though I've been to plenty of beaches, I'm surprised I haven't found one yet. I'm still hoping. I'm still hoping. It'd be really cool to find like even just like any type of shark tooth. It doesn't have to be like a megalodon tooth. It doesn't have to be a great white shark tooth. It could be a lemon shark for all I care, or a bull shark tooth, whatever. But yeah, learning that about what like different types of teeth, like the dense flat, the needle-like, the pointed, or the non-functional, like the whale sharks, pretty dang cool. Greenland shark will always be one of my favorites. Like, it'll probably be whale shark, then great white, and then also Greenland shark. Those are probably my top three. And just because the Greenland shark being so like unknown while also living for so long, and like everything about it is insane. Like, oh, it can live 250 to 500 years old. Dang, that's insane. It's like, oh, also they reach maturity at 150 years of age. Dang, are you serious? And that's like, oh yeah, also when they want to have babies or whatever, it takes 8 to 18 years. It's like, huh? Then they have toxic meat, like their meat is toxic. I'm like, everything about them is just kind of weird and freaky, and I just love it. Um, Basking sharks, pretty cool. I like the look of their like, I like the look of their big mouth, like the way they open. Um, Great white sharks will never not be entertaining, especially to watch during Shark Week. Um, Dwarf lantern sharks, learning that there are some sharks that have bioluminescence, that was pretty dang cool. And also being the smallest shark species at like 8 inches long. Uh, um, Let me see. Then also just learning about like all the different egg cases and stuff for sharks. Um, the sleep breathing. Okay, I'd always heard that sharks always had to be swimming to breathe, and like learning that like technically they don't have to. They can also sleep while breathing. Like that, I was cool to finally learn. Also, I thought it was very interesting learning more about the liver of a shark and also the spleen of the shark. Because the liver, I'd always heard of orcas killing great white sharks for the livers, and I always heard that like, oh, they just like the liver kind of thing. And I'm like, just learning about like why the liver is so good. It's like, oh, it stores energy and oils and vitamins, and it's so much bigger in sharks. I'm like, oh, I understand why now. And also that since they don't have bone marrow, I did not think about that. They don't have bones. They don't have bone marrow. How did they make red blood cells? And it's their spleen. That was just cool to learn about. The different types of tails, like I said before, I never really paid attention to like what the tails look like of sharks. So like tiger sh- tiger shark tail is different to the nurse shark, which is different to the cookie cutter shark, which is different to the great white shark. Just like none of them look exactly the same. Like the great white shark and the poor beagle shark, they kind of look similar, but then they don't look anything similar to the nurse shark. So yeah, just learn about the different tails and how they work. Um, yeah, just everything about sharks is very interesting. And I'm sure at one point in your life you probably were very interested in sharks. I know I had a book on sharks. Okay, like I was like a big dinosaur kid, but I also had a book on sharks, and it had a big picture of a megalodon on it, and had many great white sharks, and all that stuff. And it was just a super interesting. I loved it. I might still have it on my bookshelf somewhere. I might have it. I don't know. But yes, that is the educational video for this month. It was on sharks. I hope you enjoyed. Next month, don't exactly know what we're gonna do for that. I always seem to come up with it at the very latest moment. Uh, but I always seem to pull it off, which I very much enjoy learning about different things. Oh, also, I loved like learning about how sharks are older than trees and sharks are older than the rings of Saturn. Those are like easy trivia answers right there, okay? That you know now. Easy. But that's about all I have to say about sharks. Maybe possibly in the future, because like I just kind of touched on certain sharks. I didn't actually go very, very, very into depth about them, other than the whale shark, which I have another video on. The Greenland shark would be cool to do a video on, and a great white shark would be a great one to do a video on, and possibly a bull shark, since they like also go in fresh and salt water. So I mean, there's a possibility in the future I could do a video just on each of the shark species. But we'll have to see. So, anyways, thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next month with the next educational video. So, I will see you guys later. So, bye bye.